Gonna build a mountain from a little hill.
Evening folks, this is Best in Slot with your Planet Zoo news. We got a brand new screenshot today courtesy of Game Informer, and it's a pretty exciting one at that. And along with that we got some new information, albeit speculative information, that we got from the developer spotlight that Frontier did yesterday. As per usual, I will link a Google Drive that I've made down below with all the current screenshots and videos if you want to check it out for yourself. And remember to throw me a like and a subscribe if you find this video informative and you want to be the coolest person in the world. Let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to bring up the screenshot. Now, I pulled this personally from the June 2019 issue of Game Informer magazine through an Android emulator on my PC. The things we do for hype, huh? Apologies for the low quality, but this is the best I could manage with Game Informer's absolutely atrocious app. Anyway, this is once again the same zoo we've seen before, but it's a much better look at one of the exhibits we've been debating for a long time. And more importantly, it actually contains animals for the first time in a long time. This is the same exhibit that has been the source of so much speculation so far thanks to an older screenshot, mainly concerning this building in the bottom left of the shot. Was it indeed an underwater viewing area? It was always difficult to tell from the angle, but thanks to this new shot we can... I don't want to say confirm. People are saying confirm, people are saying not confirm. We're going to hedge our bets. We're going to look at it in a little bit closer detail anyways. First of all, we have a beautifully chubby hippo swimming along in the top half of the image. Whilst this image doesn't necessarily confirm that animals are able to dive underwater, at this point in time I would be immensely surprised if some animals, like the hippos, can't do that. Why would you have underwater viewing areas, if that is indeed what it is, if the animals aren't actually going to go underwater? If it doesn't mean it'll be how they spend a lot of their time, it doesn't have to mean that, and we know that just swimming alone will help keep them clean, but I think if we followed Big Hippo here for a while, we'd see it dug under the water eventually. Hopefully that's something we can get some confirmation on relatively soon. They've made a big point about the depth of the water, so it would seem a little bit weird if the animals don't take advantage of that. The viewing area itself is filled with groups of humans, most of whom seem to be actively facing out through the glass and to the exhibit, which is actually a big deal. Why the lot on the right are all standing together in this orgy horde kind of thing is kind of beyond me, rather than using that middle window, but still, it's nice that they're going to spread along the viewing area and use it properly. It looks as though it isn't faked in the way that the viewing areas in Jurassic World Evolution are. Our guests will probably actually view our animals. They're not going to stand there and point and, gasp at certain people. Are convinced that the guests in Jurassic World Evolution can point out your dinosaurs and react to them. They're not. I promise you, it's fake. They are just playing automated animations randomly, and sometimes they happen to point at a dinosaur. Anyways, these guests should be, like in Planet Coaster, real individuals that you can follow throughout your entire parks and click on individually and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll also have a first-person camera so we can look through the glass and experience the hippos just as our guests are right there. As for the viewing area itself, I'm kind of in two minds about this. This bit, of course, is a little bit of guesswork, but it does seem that the water level should be sitting around halfway up the glasswork. These half-water, half-air exhibits are so commonplace in zoos and so absolutely perfect for hippos, it would seem almost bizarre for them not to be included, especially if our animals are indeed able to dive underwater. Not being able to then look at them as they dive underwater through the glass would seem even weirder. It just doesn't make sense for it not to be part of the game. However, I do have to hedge a little bit here because a lot of people have seen these images and are taking them as confirmation, and yet the more I've looked at it, even as I've been scripting this video, I've gone back and forth, the less convinced I really am. If you look to the right of the viewing area, you'll see how the ground sort of moves upwards, and looking through the glass, there's no colour change or lighting change or texture change to indicate half of it being underwater. It looks like it's all one shade beyond the glass. Now, whilst I don't think this image is confirmation we're going to have underwater viewing areas, it's definitely not confirmation we won't have underwater viewing areas. I just think we need some information from a more official source before we can for sure say that this is going to happen. I do think it'll be in the game, but I don't think this is the confirmation that people are taking it to be. Finally, on our zoomed in image here, I had to say that about 4 times before I finally got it right, I want to point out the decor on the wall because it is adorable. It's some form of animal. I actually thought it was a chimpanzee at first, but that doesn't seem to make much sense. It's probably a hippo, sitting above an ocean, below a rainbow. It's really weird and tacky, but it's perfect for a zoo. And I suspect it isn't a default part of the viewing area and is instead a decor piece that we can place around our zoo at will. there is going to be, like, no matter what, no matter how hesitant people are about this game and stuff like that, there is going to be a lot of creativity in this game. It's guaranteed. This is basically a game on the foundations of Planet Coaster. We're going to have hundreds of items to build our zoo with. This is guaranteed at the very least. So it's really nice to see what, like, little hints of what that creativity could entail. Now, there's not much else to take from the wider screenshot. After all, this is a park we've seen 4 or 5 times already. It'd be really interesting to see if we ever get a new park. I suspect we will, but they're kind of building up to it. Like I keep saying, I really do think June is going to be a big month for the game and for Jurassic World Evolution. I think we're going to see a lot out of Frontier in the next month or so. Anyways, there's a glimpse of what I believe is a set of heating pads or cooling pads, both are going to be in the game. They look very similar to ones we saw in a cave in an earlier screenshot, but beyond that there's not much else here. So let's move on to the other aspect of the video I mentioned at the start, the developer spotlight. Now, this is a fairly large post on the Frontier forums where several developers talk about their role on Planet Zoo. It's definitely an interesting read, and if you want to go through the whole thing, I'll link it down below in the description so you can check it out for yourselves. But it is lacking a little in actual new Planet Zoo information, other than maybe this one line. Now, credit to Reddit user Tobart188, I don't know what happened to the first 187 Tobarts, but I'm sure it didn't end well for them. For being the first one to point this out, I will read out the line that I'm referring to. It's also amazing listening to the realistic animal sounds and seeing how the game code and design bring them to life in-game. This results in animals displaying a wide array of real-life behaviours. I was going to say wide away. Real-life behaviours and interacting with each other, the guests, staff, and especially you, the player. Now, the interesting bit here is, of course, especially you, the player. The animals interact with the guests and staff, sure, that makes sense, but with the player, how is that going to happen? I've got 2 main theories. The first is that does this basically confirm a first-person camera, as I mentioned earlier. It's going to allow us to walk around as guests and therefore interact with our animals. Frontier's last zoo game, Zoo Tycoon for the Xbox One, if you don't count Jurassic World Evolution as a zoo game, it wasn't an amazing game, but it had some good ideas. And one of those good ideas was these interaction stations that you can see in this video that I'm playing right now, credit to the user on the page, where you could feed various animals manually, you could clean them, you could play with them. The chimps in particular, they could copy your facial expressions and stuff like that. It was really cool. And bringing something like that in again into Planet Zoo would really just add a lot of life and excitement to our exhibits, and it would be a huge boon for the game. It would be a really big deal and a really cool way of interacting with our animals. I don't think we've seen even a hint of that so far, and I suspect that's not what the interaction will be. But I do suspect we'll be getting that first-person camera. Alternatively, it could also mean that it's possible to interact with your animals from your godlike camera position, basically. I'm thinking things similar to Black and White, wherein basically you can play with your animals, you can poke them, you can interact with them from above. Maybe those big footballs we've seen in the elephant exhibits, you'll be able to pick those up with your mouse cursor and chuck them along the exhibit, and your little baby elephant will run along and grab it, and you'll be playing with your animals sort of and interacting with your animals even though you're not a person in the park. That'd be really cool as well. And it really could be either of these two. I'm kind of hoping for both, but the integration of a proper first-person camera, not the tethered camera we had in Planet Coaster, that allows for guest-to-animal interaction would be really, really good. For me, games like this thrive on first-person cameras. That ability to walk around your creation and see your animals at play from the perspective of a guest is honestly fundamental. If I was going to build a list of 10 fundamental things a zoo game should have, a first-person camera would make the list. It would be close to making the top 5. Maybe I'll do that list. And I will be incredibly disappointed if it's not in the game. Thankfully, I think it will be. It seems it will be. Planet Coaster had one, although it was released post-release, and there has been quite a large outcry about the lack of a first-person camera in Jurassic World Evolution as well. I think by now Frontier are aware that this is something people desperately want, and I would be immensely surprised if we don't see it in the game. And then from that point, from the first-person camera, we'll be able to interact with our animals. If you go to a zoo now, you go up to the lion exhibit or whatever, sometimes they'll come up to the glass and, jump up against it. The gorillas will come and play with you sort of at the glass and stuff like that. Maybe that's the kind of thing we're going to get. That would require a lot of animation work, a lot of AI work, but you never know. This game's been in development for a decent amount of time for once, and had already had a solid foundation. I really think the animals have been given a lot of time and effort this time around, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, I think that's it from me today, folks. Thanks a lot for joining me as always, and if you did find this video informative albeit speculative, then please be a super cool person and click that thumbs up looking thing down below, and remember to subscribe for the latest news and updates for Planet Zoo as soon as they land. And if you are a new subscriber and you want to be notified about this, which again, YouTube, I hate you, but make sure you tick that bell icon when you do subscribe, because otherwise you won't get notified, because YouTube is stupid and thinks for some reason people want to subscribe but not see your videos, which is bizarre to me, but whatever. Thanks for joining me. Cheers much as always. Bye bye. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or you want to help support me a little bit more, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. There's a link in the description down below. Every little really does help in times like these, but it's not at all expected, and by just watching the video you've already helped me out massively, and it makes you a pretty cool person, so well done you. Thanks for joining me either way, I'll see you next time.